Hello and welcome to another grammar video with Sunshine School. Today we are looking at past tense. Now there are 4 past tenses in English and we will look at each of these in depth. So if you're ready, let's go. The 4 past tenses in English grammar are past simple, past continuous, past perfect simple, and past perfect continuous. First, let's take a look at the differences between past simple and past continuous. Past simple is used to talk about single, completed actions. For example, they watched an interesting football match last night. Past continuous is used to talk about actions happening at a particular or specific moment in the past. For example, at 8 o'clock last night, they were watching an interesting football match. It can also be used to talk about actions in progress over a period of time. Daniel and his friend were playing video games all morning yesterday. Past simple can be used to talk about habits in the past. For example, did you play basketball when you were younger? Past continuous can be used to talk about annoying past habits, usually with the word always. For example, I was always arriving late for class when I took the bus. We use past simple when we're talking about permanent situations in the past. For example, when he was young, he lived in a small flat. We use past continuous to talk about temporary situations in the past. For example, Greg was living in London at the time. We use past simple when we talk about a sequence of actions, so things that happened one after the other. For example, he slipped, fell over, and hurt his ankle. We use past continuous to talk about 2 actions in progress at the same time. For example, Lisa was doing her homework while her mum was cooking dinner. When talking about general truths and facts in the past, we would use past simple. For example, crosswords didn't become popular until the 1930s. When giving background information in a story, we would use past continuous. The sun was shining and the birds were singing. Lisa opened the window and looked out. Let's take a look at the structure of each of these tenses. First, past simple. When making a statement, we use the subject and then the verb, usually with ed, unless it's an irregular verb. So, I, you, he, she, it, we, or they worked. When making a negative statement, we use the subject, didn't or did not, and the infinitive, so without the ed form of the verb. I, you, he, she, it, we, or they didn't work. When making a question in the past simple, we use did, the subject, and the infinitive. For example, did I, you, she, he, it, we, they work? Next, let's look at the past continuous. As you can see, for a positive statement, a negative statement, and a question, the verb form stays the same. The main difference here is was or were. For a singular subject, we use was, and for a plural subject, we use were. I, he, she, it was reading. You, we, they were reading. For a negative statement, the singular subject, I, he, she, or it, wasn't reading. The plural subjects, you, we, and they, weren't reading. For a question, we use was or were before the subject. Was I, he, she, or it reading? Or were you, we, or they reading? You will notice that the structure of this is extremely similar to present continuous. The only difference here is that the verb to be is in the past tense. Here are some words and phrases commonly used with each of these tenses and some example sentences. First, for the past simple. I got sick last week. How long ago did you start painting? You looked pretty upset just now. What age were you then? Now for the past continuous. Was Ben doing his homework while his dad was cooking dinner? They arrived as we were leaving. We can also use the word did in past simple statements for emphasis. For example, we lost 5-0, but at least we did get into the final. Why didn't you win your match yesterday? I did win. Who told you I didn't? When one action in the past interrupts another action in progress, we use the past simple and the past continuous together. For example, Alex was watching TV when the phone rang. Be careful, we do not use the past continuous for regular or repeated actions in the past. For example, we would say, when we were on holiday, we played volleyball every day. We would not say, when we were on holiday, we were playing volleyball every day. We do not usually use stative verbs in continuous tenses. For example, we can say, Sylvia saw Alex at the party yesterday. We would not say, Sylvia was seeing Alex at the party yesterday. Now, let's take a look at past perfect simple and past perfect continuous. We can use past perfect simple to talk about a past action which occurred before another past action or before a specific time in the past. For example, she had already left when I got home. We use past perfect continuous to emphasize the duration of an action which started and finished in the past before another past action or a stated time in the past. For example, when you saw us, we had been running for 6 miles. Past perfect simple is used to talk about completed past actions which had visible results in the past. For example, he was happy. He had won the race. Past perfect continuous is used to talk about past actions of a certain duration which had visible results in the past. For example, Alex looked tired because she had been exercising all morning. Let's compare past perfect simple to present perfect simple. The past perfect is the past equivalent of the present perfect. He can't find his key. He has lost it. This sentence uses present perfect. He couldn't find his key. He had lost it. This sentence uses past perfect. Now let's look at past perfect continuous against present perfect continuous. The past perfect continuous is the past equivalent of the present perfect continuous. For example, she is going to the doctor. Her leg has been aching for 2 days. This sentence uses present perfect continuous. She went to the doctor. Her leg had been aching for 2 days. This sentence uses past perfect continuous. Let's look at the structures of these two tenses. First, past perfect simple. To make a positive statement, we use the subject, then had, and then the past participle of the verb. I had waited. To make a negative statement, we use the subject, had not or hadn't, and the past participle. I hadn't waited. To make a question, we use had, then the subject, then the past participle. Had I waited? Now let's look at the past perfect continuous. To make a positive statement, we use the subject, had been, and then the verb plus ing. I had been waiting. To make a negative statement, we use the subject, hadn't or had not, been, and then the verb plus ing. I hadn't been waiting. To make a question, we use had, then the subject, been, and then the verb plus ing. Had I been waiting? Here are some words and phrases commonly used with the past perfect simple. Before, after, just, yet, already, for, since, ever, never, till or until, when, by the time, etc. Here are a couple of words often used with the past perfect continuous: for and since. We should note that there is often little or no difference in meaning between the past perfect simple and the past simple. For example, we had lived next to the gym for a couple of months before I decided to join. This is past perfect simple. We lived next to the gym for a couple of months before I decided to join. This is past simple. These two sentences carry the same meaning. After we have used the past perfect simple once, we often then use the past simple instead of continuing to use the past perfect. For example, I had already had one flying lesson, which was great fun, and I knew immediately that I wanted to get my pilot's license. The past perfect simple is used at the beginning of this sentence. I had already had. After this, we continue the sentence using past simple. Phrases such as it was the first, it was the second, it was the third time are often followed by the past perfect simple. For example, it was the second time I had been on a plane. Let's look at using the terms would and used to with the past tense. First, we'll look at the word would. To form this, we use would and the bare infinitive or zero infinitive. This is the base form of the verb without the word to. We use this for past habits, particularly for the distant past. For example, when I was very young, my grandfather would take me to the park to play. Now let's look at used to. To form this, we use used to and then the bare infinitive. And we use this to talk about past habits and states, particularly for the distant past. For example, my mother used to play a lot of squash before I was born. We don't often use would in questions or negative statements with this meaning. In negative statements, we can use would never. We would never play games together as a family when I was growing up. Let's look at how we form positive and negative statements and questions using used to. For a positive statement, we use the subject, used to, and then the bare infinitive. I used to walk long distances. For negative statements, there are a few different ways we can do this. We can use the subject, didn't used to, and then the bare infinitive. I didn't used to be good at football. We can use the subject, never used to, and then the bare infinitive. They never used to be good at football. We can use the subject and used not to, and the bare infinitive. I used not to be good at football. To form a question, we use did, the subject, used to, and the bare infinitive. Did you used to play hockey there? Be careful. To talk about a past state, we can use used to, but not would. For example, we used to have a house that was right next to the park, not we would have a house that was right next to the park. Now it's time to test our knowledge. Pause the video and see if you can answer the questions. Then we will go through them. So, let's check. Number 1. By 2008, Katie had already visited 6 countries in Europe. The tense used here is past perfect. Had already visited. Number 2. The children were cold. They had been playing in the snow all afternoon. We're using past perfect continuous with an emphasis on the duration of the activity of playing in the snow. Number 3. This time last week, I was sitting an exam. This is past continuous. Number 4. Paul bought an expensive mountain bike last year. This is past simple. Number 5. While Matthew was fixing the window, he fell off the ladder. Here we use past simple. We use past continuous to talk about the action that was interrupted by falling off the ladder. Number 6. It was a chilly evening. A strong wind was blowing and clouds were covering the sky. This is background information in a story, for which we use past continuous. Number 7. They had been walking for 3 hours before they found the house. Here we're using past perfect continuous to emphasize the duration of the activity of walking. Number 8. By the time they arrived at the beach, it had started to rain. This is past perfect. Number 9. Do you have fond memories of your camping trips? Yes, my cousins and I would go fishing by the lake. Here we could choose between would or used to, but as we only have would as a valid option, we choose A. Number 10. Do you know that girl? Yes, we used to go to the same school. C is the only option here. Number 11. Do you remember when we were children? Yes, Grandma would always make us strawberry muffins. Here we could have would or used to, but not got used to or was used to. So we choose A, would. Number 12. Mr. Miller looks different now, doesn't he? Yes, he used to wear glasses and have a moustache. Here we could say he used to wear glasses or he would wear glasses. But because to is in the sentence already, we need to use used. Thank you for joining us on this grammar video today. Hopefully you understand the past tenses a little better now. If you have any questions or comments, please add them below the video and we will see you next time.